I'm not home. Good afternoon. Currently a teacher at Finney High School, and for a long time, a teacher and building representative here at Western International High School. So in a sense, this is like coming home for me. I tell people all the time that Western is the school that made me famous, because it was here at Western that I really grew my teeth as a union activist and ultimately as a union leader. To be sure, these are the most pivotal times that DFT has faced probably since the days of Mary Ellen Reardon. We have a school district that continues its perpetual blend of mismanagement, thus rendering the school district. Unfortunately, any time that there seems to be a crisis with the district's finances, the easiest and most convenient method of addressing that monetary crisis is to pass the cost of it on to the rank and file. 16 years of classroom experience. Before I went to for 9 years, and before that, I kind of bummed around from school to school because I was a young gun teacher at the time, and as our district is always the lowest on the totem pole, so I was the one who was always getting transferred. So I spent 14 years in the classroom before, and then I spent 14 years in the union office, first as a labor relations administrator, and then as the director of operations.
To the main office.
At the time, I had the responsibility of policing and enforcing the collective bargaining agreement and for the teachers and the other members in the schools and work sites. For the time, that was the old area C and D. But then as director of operations from 2000 until 2007, I pretty much had the responsibility in enforcing the contract throughout the school district, because I supervised the administrative staff at the DFT office who was responsible for pursuing the interests of the membership. The most glaring example of the experience that I have is that in 1994, 1999, 1997, 1999, 2002, 2005, 2006, and from 1997 up until 2006, I was the primary writer of the contract language that benefited DFT members. The art of negotiation is just that. It is an art. It's a matter of knowing the collective bargaining agreement, being able that you receive from your members, knowing how to take a no and build it into a yes. There's an old adage in contract negotiations that says that if both sides walk away from the table unhappy, that means that you got a good contract. Now, certainly in negotiations, no one ever gets everything for us as teachers. But I am very proud of the fact during the time that I was at that bargaining table, I was able to successfully contribute to the negotiation of language that expanded or enhanced the benefits of our members, the contractual rights of our members, but most importantly, protected our members from irreparable harm, which is the primary responsibility of a union. Who may be going through a rating and evaluation process, or teachers who are not being compensated for the service that they provide at the level that they should be compensated. Sometimes it involves actually negotiating language that saves your membership from irreparable harm. Case in point, in 2005 and 2006, DFT negotiated a series of costs that were designed to do two things. Number one was to allow the district to submit a balanced budget. Number two, it was designed to allow them to buy time to change their policies and practices. Now, while other unions had to actually engage in concessions, lost benefits, and lost some of their other contractual rights, DFT did not. Just about everything that we loaned to the district or suspended, we got back. One of the more proud achievements of mine as a contract language writer was relative to the year that we had to suspend the step increments for our members. So a teacher who was at step 6, say during the 03-04 school year. I'm sorry, 04-05 school year. For 05-06, she remained at step 6. But then for 06-07, she went from step 6 to step 8. So it was not a loss in perpetuity. While I was not able to recover the amount of money that she lost for not getting that step, I was able to make sure that she was never always a step behind. Even with regard to the 10% contribution that we make towards our health insurance, that simply brought equity within the DFT, because there were a number of us, like me, who were hired prior to November 1st of 1992, who did not have to make any contribution to our health care. Some of our brothers and sisters who were hired after November 1st of 1992 were paying 10%. If a union is supposed to reflect solidarity, then there also must be solidarity in the rights and benefits extended to them. That simply brought equity within the membership. We loaned the district 5 days, and you were originally scheduled to receive 2 days at the end of the following year, and then 1 day each subsequent year. Well, I was able to rewrite that language to expedite that so that last December, right before Christmas, you received those additional 3 days that you had loaned. Ladies and gentlemen, that comes from knowing not only what to do, not only knowing how to do it, but knowing when to do it. To be sure, the DFT has been very conspicuous by its absence and its silence on the political front. And so there's no question about the fact that in order for us to save ourselves, we must become more politically active. That political action has to involve the establishment of liaisons, sometimes with unions within the AFT Michigan, and even sometimes with the unions in the NEA. Because we are now at a point where we have more issues that are affecting us collectively than dividing us separately. And so therefore we must coalesce with other unions, we must coalesce with legislators, we must coalesce with our community, we must coalesce with every stakeholder that is involved in public education. We know, for example, that charter schools are not going away. As much disdain as we may have for them, as much inequity as there is when it comes to them and how they are viewed versus how we are viewed, the reality is that they are not going away. So therefore, we must learn to function within the context of their existence. But one thing that we must do, we must insist to Lansing that before you allow the proliferation of charter schools, you need to make sure that the ones that you have in place are at least doing as well as the traditional public schools, which right now they are not. We certainly must address the issue of funding. The fact that the city of Detroit has a declining enrollment and thus has a declining enrollment of students should not be an excuse for the lack of adequate funding coming into DPS. It is hypocritical to hear people talk about how children and their education are their #1 priority, but yet they continue to sit absently whenever the issue of raising the state contribution towards public education before them. And part of the reason that they've been able to get away with that during the last 2 years